the music room. Come on in. Okay, folks. Today we're going to overhaul this guitar. We're going to talk about the maintenance, what you got to do to keep your guitar playing, long life. This is a acoustic guitar. This particular guitar was made in 1966. And what happens is, as a guitar ages, it becomes more mellow and the music it makes is a lot smoother. Now this wood construction, as it moves back and forth, it makes it a little bit lighter and a little easier movement every day. So what you want to do is you want to leave your guitar laying out. Never put your guitar in a case unless you have to. Leave it laying out, because even me talking or any vibration moves that wood. And the more the wood moves, the better the sounding of the guitar. So that's why everybody wants to get these old guitars. You notice how it's yellowed around the border, and the tone of it is just spectacular. So let's talk about the things you're going to need. First thing you're going to need is what I call lizard spit. It's basically an orange oil, and it's good for all wood products. But in this case, this neck here, if it dries out, what's going to happen is these frets are going to start raising up on you, and they're going to start fretting out, and you're going to have buzzes and those kind of things. So it's very good to make sure that your neck is always in condition. Second thing is you want to make sure you got a nice polishing cloth. Now this one here, obviously I swiped from my wife's kitchen. She doesn't know it yet. But anything that's like a lint-free cloth will do. You want to use a good wax. After all, that is a beautiful wood finish. So you want to use a good wax on it, but you never want to spray it into any kind of electronics. So if you got any electronics on your guitar, make sure you just take your cloth and wipe around that. These winders are the first thing that we're going to remove. And once we do that, then we'll show you how to string it up. Strings, you want to get a good brand, a major brand. These are Darios. Some people like a lighter gauge, some people like a heavier gauge. I prefer a little bit lighter gauge, but you want to make sure you get acoustic strings for your acoustic guitar, and of course electric strings for your electric guitar. Now there are many different brands. What I suggest you do is change brands 4 or 5 times until you find the string that you particularly like. Okay, now we're going to rip off these strings. I have here a classic winder that's going to allow me to do a lot faster and a lot better job of this. After all, nobody wants to take all day to take their strings off. Now look at that, right off of there. And you can see how bad these strings actually were. Now, my suggestion to you is that you probably want to change your strings probably every about 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how much you play. Hour-wise, if you take and keep your string clean using these products, keep those strings clean them every time you use it, you're going to find out that those strings are going to last 2, 3, maybe even 4 times longer as if you just leave them alone. Now there's several different kinds of strings that you can use for a guitar. We're going to be using an acoustic Dario string on this. It has a 9-gauge E string. It winds up into a 48 on the low E string. Now that we've got our strings loosened up, we want to reach in here and remove these peg heads. Now you never want to really try to force them out, but wiggle it back and forth and move them nice and easy. Yeah, there they go. But you see how much faster and easier they come out from pushing from underneath as opposed to sitting here and struggling and pulling on them. And you never want to use a pair of pliers or nothing like that. So let me get that set of strings out and we're going to clean our neck, polish our guitar. Well, I got the strings off of this baby, and I pulled out these here plugs, and I'll tell you, these are the original 1966 pegs. That's unbelievable. So let's get busy, and we're going to clean our neck first thing, and we're going to use this lizard spit or orange oil. It's so important to make sure that that neck stays clean. If you don't keep it clean, what's going to happen is you're going to wear these frets right down. You're not going to be able to slide up and down your neck easy, and you want to give it all the best advantage you can. You don't want those frets popping out at you. And what you really want to do is you want to soak it. You just want to soak that rosewood. Yeah, that's right. Look at that. Sure makes it shine, don't it? And once you get it on there, you're going to let it soak in for a couple minutes. And we'll take the back side of this cloth and we'll clean her all up. Now on the body down here, we're just going to be using a common household item. which is lemon pledge, but don't tell anybody my secret. Now what you don't ever want to use any kind of harsh chemicals. I once seen a guy take out a bottle of Windex and spray on his guitar, and I said, oh my God, man, how could you? He says, oh yeah, I've been using Windex for years. And I got to looking at his guitar, and it really didn't have much finish left to it. So all you need is a good wax. Oh, there's one right there. How about that? Yeah, and you just want to spray that on there. Now, if you got electronics on your guitar, like many of these acoustics will have electronics on them. They'll have EQ devices, batteries, that kind of thing. So in that case, you don't want to spray on it any kind of electronics. Maybe put a little bit on your cloth and wipe around those electronics. Now what we have here is a very, very nice lacquer finish. And the reason they use lacquer on guitars rather than like urethane or enamel, that kind of stuff, is you got to allow the guitar to breathe. And with this wood moving back and forth, it's got to be able to breathe to be able to flex. Now, how good that guitar flexes is what's going to determine how warm the tone of that guitar is. The more that wood is able to flex, the richer the tone is going to be. So that's a good point. Always make sure you leave your guitar out. Don't put it in a case and stick it in a closet or nothing like that. Because any kind of sound, any kind of music, talking, any noise at all makes that wood move. And that's exactly what you want to do, is keep that wood moving. Well, you don't want to forget the sides and the back. Now this guitar is one of the very first guitars, let me show you this, to actually have electronics built in it. And you can tell the old gray cords inside of here. That's very unusual for a guitar that's this old, but it was one of the very first things that they did. They didn't have any kind of fancy EQ or batteries or boosts or nothing like that. Oh, that's a pretty wood. Isn't that beautiful? Now, for the purpose of stringing, we're going to be using some D'Addario phosphorus bronze acoustical guitar strings. Now, I prefer the lighter gauge, which is going to run a 10 to a 47. What that allows me to do is actually play lead parts as well as rhythm parts on the guitar. Now, what you want to keep in mind is the heavier the string, the more sound you're going to have. Now, but also, each guitar is made to a certain caliber of string. So when you buy a guitar new, it's going to have a certain gauge string on it. And that neck has been put on there and seated to accommodate that set of strings. So if you change gauges, it's possible you might have to adjust your truss rod. Now what a truss rod is, it's a device that's inserted in the neck, a metal pole, and it adjusts the tension up and down. Now with a guitar, what happens is it starts out with a little bit of an arc to it. And as you put the strings on and tighten them out, it becomes a little bit of a bow. And you want to have just a little bit of bow, and what that does is prevent it from fretting out after you get done. So if you do change your set of strings to a different gauge, then you might possibly have to change your truss rod. Now your strings are pretty much color coded, and it tells you on the back which string goes which place. Well, listen, if you don't know how to do that, then you need to go get some lessons. So, oh, that's what we're here for, isn't it? Okay. Well, anyway, this is our E string. You can see it's the heaviest string out of all of them. And what I like to do is I like to tuck them right in there all at once before I try to wind them up.